guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome your fear of giving birth. So for those of you guys who may be new to my channel, I am currently 14 weeks pregnant with my second baby. I have a son named Knox who is 16 months old, and we are currently living at my dad's house because we are renovating an apartment and then also going to be building a house soon. So we are living a pretty crazy life. If you want to come along for the ride, feel free to subscribe and join the family, and also follow me over on Instagram if you guys want to see like daily updates and all of that, kind of what we're up to on a daily basis. But yeah, in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about how to overcome your fear of birth and giving birth. And this is something that is super important to me, something I'm very passionate about. And I have some notes written down, and I'm super excited to share with you guys kind of like my tips and tricks and what I have done to be fearless of giving birth, my first and now second time around. Also, one more thing before we get started, I want to mention that I will leave my positive birth experience with my son down below if you guys want to watch that. It's like story time / vlog style, so you'll see parts of my actual labor and then me talking about it about 2 weeks after giving birth. So yeah, if you guys are interested in seeing that, it will help you understand a lot of where I'm coming from. So yeah, I recommend pausing this video and watching that one first, but without further ado, let's jump right in. So we're just keeping it comfy over here. I'm like curled up in a blanket and I'm sitting in this big comfy chair because I just want this to be like a relaxed, chatty video. And I do have some notes written down to keep it a little more structured, but I get asked all the time, how did I overcome my fear of giving birth? Was I scared of giving birth? And just a lot of questions, you know, around that topic. Braxton, can you stop, Bubba? Hey. I feel like in my past few videos, Braxton is somehow always in the background licking his privates. Can you just hold off for like 30 minutes? So yeah, I just get asked about this topic all the time, and I've become very passionate about it because I think it is so sad in today's society that people want to share their horror stories with everybody and completely scare women about giving birth. I really feel like the fear has been instilled in us at this point that birth is going to be a less than a positive experience. Obviously, there's plenty of people out there that share their positive experience, and positive doesn't mean easy. Positive doesn't mean pain-free. Positive doesn't mean, unicorns and rainbows. I just think that there is a positive way of looking at your birth and making it a positive experience. And that was really my goal with our first baby. We really wanted just a positive experience, because it makes me very sad to know women who are afraid of getting pregnant because they're afraid of giving birth, or who are pregnant and just are so fearful the entire time they're pregnant because they know it's leading up to this very potentially traumatic event. And obviously some things go wrong. There are traumatic births, and I feel awful that that is the reality for some people. I am very lucky to have had a positive birth, my first experience around, but I do think that a lot of the times it is how you look at it, and it is how you prep and go into it, and you can prepare yourself for the most positive birth possible. So jumping right in, my first tip would be to take a birthing class. Specifically a hypnobirthing class. So it can sound kind of like weird and intimidating to some people. As far as giving birth, I wanted to do it as natural as possible. So when you take a hypnobirthing class, essentially what it's doing is teaching you how to take the fear out of giving birth. And you learn so much about the history of giving birth and how women have been doing it for years, and how to really overcome your thoughts and things in your mind, because essentially that is what is going to get you through your labor, is your head. It's not that your body can't do it. It's all in your mind. So highly recommend taking a hypnobirthing class. If you can't find one in your area, or you're not open to hypnobirthing, I still recommend taking a class so that you can learn different breathing techniques and just kind of learn a little bit more about birth. That way you feel more comfortable going into it. You wouldn't want to go into a test without studying. So same thing. Highly recommend finding a class. Also try to find a class that you and your spouse, or whoever is going to be in the labor room with you, find a class that you guys can both attend. That way you have someone that is on the same page as you and is as knowledgeable as you as well. But tip number 2 is to stop entertaining people's horror stories. So like I said, I completely understand that there are very traumatic birth experiences, and those things are really out of people's control, and it's very unfortunate. but that does not mean that you have to listen to people's stories. Also, I know a lot of people, the way they describe their birth is sometimes in more of a negative way, or a very scary way, I should say. And you know, you can just politely say like, I don't like to hear scary birth stories. I, at some point, want to become a mom and I don't want to be fearful of birth. Or if you are pregnant, just say like, our hypnobirthing teacher used to tell us to say that the baby can hear you, you know, and I can hear you, and we don't want to hear anything negative. So just find something that you feel comfortable saying, and don't be afraid to say that to people who you feel like are scaring you out of giving birth, or telling a very traumatic story that you feel like is not going to benefit you in any way. So I feel like the number one thing that people are fearful of as far as giving birth is the pain. That is something that before I was educated and all of that, in the very beginning of my first pregnancy, you know, I was nervous about, and it's more of like the unknown. Like, you don't know what it's gonna feel like. You've never gone through this before, and it can feel very scary. But one thing that really helped me is when I educated myself on knowing about these chemicals that our body releases, endorphins and oxytocin. They are actually literally made to protect our bodies. So when you go into labor, your body naturally produces endorphins and oxytocin, and it actually helps you overcome the pain, and it helps kind of take the edge off. So there's multiple things that you would learn in your birthing class, especially in hypnobirthing. We learned a lot about releasing oxytocin. So by having your spouse or whoever's in the labor room with you kind of give you these really light back massages or things like that, can really help you release some of these hormones. I should have called them hormones, not chemicals. Hormones in your body that really help kind of mask the pain a little bit. So just know that your body is made to do this. There are natural things that your body is going to do without your control that are going to help you through this, because you were absolutely made to birth your child. That is what women are made for, and we just truly need to trust our bodies, and essentially it's out of your control anyway, and your body is going to do it. Also, something that you should educate yourself on is the fear, tension, pain cycle. So that is when you are fearful, you create more tension, you tense up more, which creates more pain. So again, we learned a lot about that in hypnobirthing, that the less fear you have, the more fear you can remove, the less tense you're going to be, the more relaxed you're going to be, and the less it's going to hurt. So I know that's kind of like hard to wrap your mind around, but it is a good way to kind of remind yourself to relax, because if you're fearful of pain, then you need to stop being afraid and just relax, because that is going to ease your pain. So along with this is you're going to want to think happy thoughts your entire pregnancy from start to finish. Don't ever think about a negative birth experience. Don't think about the scary ones. If you start to think it, try to stop yourself. If you start to think about a horror story you've heard or read about or whatever, try to stop it and just picture yourself giving a very easy and beautiful birth. Imagine yourself going through labor with ease, and just constantly, if you're thinking about labor and giving birth, constantly think positively, because by doing this, eventually you'll naturally think this way, and that will really help you when you're in labor. It will really help remove that fear, remove your tension, and help with the pain. So something else that I know people are very fearful of is pooping. So this one I was like anxious about, because I had, you know, done all these other things to remove my fear of giving birth, that when I went in, I was like, I still don't want to poop. I do not want to poop. And especially because it was my husband and I's first experience, and I just wanted it to be this like magical moment, and poop doesn't really sound that magical. So, I mean, essentially, it happens, it's out of your control. I luckily did not poop, but we plan on having more kids. We have, like I said, one on the way, and we'll definitely have another baby after that, and who knows after that. But it happens, it's out of your control, and I promise you, when you're in the moment, like, you really don't care. You just want this kid out of you. You do not care if you poop, if you pee, like, all of that, like, you worry about in the very beginning. That's not something you're actually worried about when you're in labor. You just don't care about that anymore. But yeah, don't spend any time stressing about that, because it's completely out of your control. Something else I hear people being really afraid of is tearing or having to be cut. So I was very lucky. I did not have an episiotomy, but I did tear a little bit. It wasn't like severe tearing or anything like that. But essentially, again, you can't really control this. The best way that you can control this is to just push when you feel you need to, you know, push through your contractions, but don't push in between contractions. Don't try to force your body to do something that it's not ready to do. Especially if you are in natural labor, you can completely feel your contractions and your body's just gonna naturally push on its own almost. Just kind of listen to your body and try to push when your body is telling you to push, and do not push at any other point. I know that when you have the epidural, they kind of do like the countdown pushing and all of that. I could still feel my contractions a little bit with my epidural because I'd asked them to turn it, like give me the lowest dose of it. Because essentially I hadn't wanted it at all. But so I was just able to push when I was having a contraction. There was no like confusion with that. She did let me know like, hey, a contraction's coming on, because in the beginning I couldn't really feel it. Just to help me know when to push and when not to push. But just make sure you can use your voice and tell them if something's not working for you. If you don't feel like you want to push, then tell them you don't want to push. Also, something to know, again, this is along with like trusting your body, but your body becomes very, very, very stretchy when you are in labor and giving birth. So the lady bits down there are like super lady bits, and they just have these superpowers that they know when you're in labor and they can stretch. So it's not like you have your normal lady bits and then you just pop a baby out of it. Like your girl down there is like working hard, and a lot changes while you're pregnant, a lot changes while you're in labor, and then by the time you're pushing your baby out, you would not believe how much you stretch. So it's not always as scary as it sounds. Again, it does this completely out of your control, all on its own. You really just have to sit back and talk your way through labor. In your head, just stay in your head, because your body's really doing all of the physical work for you. And there's not much you can do to stop it or make it go faster. Just know that your body is doing the absolute best that it can to prevent any extra harm. So going along with everything I said in relaxing and allowing your body and trusting your body to do what it needs to do, things that you can do to really help yourself relax is to make sure you are, one, birthing in a place that you feel comfortable. So if you feel most comfortable at home, look into home births. If you feel most comfortable in a hospital, then choose a hospital that you feel comfortable in. The last thing that you want to do is walk into the hospital and feel all tense and get all your nerves back and have your labor slow down, because essentially that's what's going to happen. If you get super nervous or worked up or you feel uncomfortable, your body is automatically going to tense up, which essentially causes more pain and can slow your labor down. So you just really want to make sure you're in a comfortable place. Most hospitals will let you bring in a crazy amount of things. I mean, you could have a diffuser, you could have a fan, and I recommend bringing your own water bottle, just something maybe with like a nice quote on it, like "you've got this," or something cute. They have a bunch of cute little like tumblers on Amazon that you could buy. Just something of your own to be comfortable with, be able to sip on. Something from home, you know, your pillow, a blanket, a cute pair of socks, cute pair of slippers, a nice robe. You can bring like fake candles in just to like dim all the lights and maybe have a couple candles on, and you can bring a speaker for your phone. And there's a lot of things that you can do to really create whatever atmosphere it is that you want to give birth in. Also, that goes along with having someone who knows what you want and what you need, and kind of what your birth plan is. That way, if something needs to be said or someone needs to speak up, you can just trust them to do that. And yeah, you can just relax. There's also tons of articles about how animals actually remove themselves or hide when they are in labor and giving birth, and this is because they go to a comfortable place. So we are no different, and you really want to create a space that you feel comfortable giving birth, because when you see, you know, animals giving birth to their babies, they're not like roaring in pain or anything like that. They obviously are, you know, uncomfortable, and they kind of look like very out of it, but they're not like screaming. And it's because they find a comfortable place or hide away, and they give birth to their babies peacefully. So yeah, I just kind of find that super interesting, and I feel like we would be no different. So coming from someone with a very long labor, I do want to share some things with you guys, because I know that a lot of people become fearful that they're going to have a long labor, and that was something that I was still nervous about with my first, though I was not fearful of giving birth anymore. I was worried that I would have a long labor. I ended up having, from when my water broke to when baby was out, I had like over 33 hours or something like that. So with that said, I mean, yes, I was having mild contractions in the beginning that were sporadic and all of that, but the hardest part of my labor was from like 3 centimeters to 10 and pushing baby out were like 15, 16 hours. My birth story is down below in the description bar, but yeah, it was very gradual for me. So you kind of like work up to the hardest point, if that makes sense. Like it's climbing and climbing and climbing the entire time. So it's not like all of a sudden you're like, bah! Like it's not like that. I have heard with Pitocin, instead of getting that gradual incline, you kind of like jump right into harder contractions, which makes them feel a lot more intense because you don't have that jog before the run. My whole point of saying this is that when you hear about these really long labors, keep in mind that they're not like at a 10 and pushing for 33 hours. But you know, it is like a gradual thing, and I was only really having like intense contractions and pushing and all of that for like half of my 33 hours or whatever. So again, I did have a long labor regardless. A lot of people go in and out in less than 10 hours, you know, 8 hours, 6 hours or something like that, and only have really hard contractions for 4 or 5 hours or something like that. And truly, when you're in the moment, time is passing like this. It's so weird. You're kind of in this like fog, and I almost feel like your body does this to you again on its own, but you just almost remove yourself from the world and time passes really fast. So lastly, I want to address the fear of things going wrong. So you guys have heard me say this throughout this entire video, but truly a lot of it is out of your control and you have to trust your body. So all you can do is go in, plan to do your best, and you can have a birth plan. I think that's perfectly normal, and I feel like for some people that would make them more relaxed going in with at least a plan. That's how I am. I want like somewhat of a plan going in, even knowing that that might completely go to shit and we need to do something completely different, but it is comforting to go in with a plan, so I think that's completely fine. You're gonna do your best, and whatever happens, happens. If there is an emergency situation or something like that, that is why we have all the technology that we have nowadays. So if you are in a hospital or if you have a doula, you know, you have educated people around you to know kind of how to handle those situations. You're not alone, you're going to get through it, and as long as the baby comes out safe, then that is essentially, you know, all that matters, that you and the baby are healthy. So whatever you need to do to get there, do it, and find comfort in that. Find comfort in knowing that you're going to be around people that kind of know what to do in these situations, and no one is going to force you to do anything either. You always have a choice. So if you don't feel comfortable with something, there was a lot that I didn't feel comfortable with in the hospital, and I just said no thank you. You know, especially in a hospital when they have, you know, like routines and protocol and all of that that they're used to following. You know, they want to pop an IV in and they want to do this like right off the bat, and I was just kind of like, I don't want to be hooked up to anything. Like, I'm just a woman in labor. Like, I don't need all of this stuff hooked up to me. And it was kind of hard to get my point across, but at the same time, I knew what I wanted and I wasn't afraid to say it. Truly, when you're in labor, you have to let go and let be and just do your best. Remember that you can do it, that you were made to do this, and worrying about it or being fearful of it is only going to make it harder for you. The more confident you can be in your body being able to handle this, the easier your labor will be. So that is absolutely it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave any requests that you have down below. I love you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.